everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Hyfi Preschool and Kids Weekly Training Podcast. My name is Kayla, and I am here with my good friends Isaac and Jeremy. And today we are going to jump in and talk about how we are made for community. So this month with kids and preschoolers, we are talking about community. On the preschool side, we say, hey, hi, hello, God gives me friends. And so we're teaching about what it means to be in community, how God made us for community, and how we can get connected in the community that God has given to us. Now, we've already talked about how different ways we can be part of that community, how we can pray for our friends, and how we can help our friends. And this week, we are going to be talking about I can cheer on my friends, which is such a hi-fi thing to say because we are all about cheering on people and celebration and just, we want to throw confetti anytime we can. And so we are all excited about what does it look like as leaders for us to teach preschoolers and kids how they can be part of their community, not just in receiving, but giving. How can they cheer on other people in their community? So we're going to be looking at the story of how Paul gave hope in Philippians 4. But before we get there, I have a question for you, Isaac, and for you, Jeremy. Very curious, as we talk about cheering other people on, encouraging other people, sharing either in our words or in our actions, just something that will encourage or cheer on our friends. I want you to think about who are those people for you? Who is someone who lifts you up when you're feeling down?
All right, so I think my answer for this has to be my sister. Her actually name is Happy. So my sister name is Happy, and she is always great at cheering me up. She is the sister that is closest in age to me. She's only 2 years younger, and I've known her since I can remember. So if anyone knows me best, I would say it's probably actually her, just because she's always been that person who is able to lift me up when I'm feeling down, who is able to encourage me, because we work a lot the same way. So an encouragement for her works a lot like an encouragement for me. So we know how to encourage each other well. We're both very competitive, so that helps there as well. When I'm feeling down, Happy is the one that can probably encourage me and support me one of the most. Yes.
I love that. And of course her name is Happy. Like she is, and I know you've shared the story a little bit. Maybe you've heard on a previous podcast about Isaac's sister and how she got her name Happy was through Isaac. But I just love that you have such a strong bond with her. And that you guys are really similar and can encourage one another. So that's really cool. Jeremy, who is someone for you that when you're feeling just kind of down or having a rough day or just going through it, who's somebody that sticks out to you that encourages you or cheers you up?
Honestly, this season of my life, I've got so many really good people in my life. Kayla, you're one of them. We meet each week, and so usually if I'm feeling pretty rough going into a Monday morning, you're one of my first meetings every Monday morning. You usually can help put a smile on my face and kind of dig me out of whatever slump I'm in. But my wife is really good at this. My 5-year-old son is super good at this. Just lighting up when I walk in the room. We like to do that thing on Bluey where I go in and it's Dad, and he kind of slow claps me, but then he runs and grabs me, and so we like to do that. But probably, to make this answer longer than it needs to be, probably who I would say is I've got a couple of buddies of mine who we play Ultimate Frisbee together on Thursday nights. One of the guys I've known since the 1900s. We've known each other since.
You sound so old.
I know. I think we met in 1992 or 1993. We've known each other many years. But he's a few years older than I am. But he and then another guy that I met within the last 6 or 7 years. We used to go to church together for a while, served in ministry together, and now we've kind of separated. We're at different churches now, but we still play Ultimate Frisbee every Thursday night with some guys that are our age. Yes, I realize that's old, but still, we play some Ultimate Frisbee. And we try to have lunch together at least once a month, and these guys are just super encouraging men of God, and they will challenge me and encourage me. And we share prayer requests through text message all week long. And so these guys just really build me up and remind me who I am in Jesus and who God's called me to be and who He's designed me to be. And so, amongst others, those two guys are just rock solid guys who encourage me in my faith.
I love that. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I would concur. I think there are, I can think of all of our teammates that we work alongside that, when I have one-on-one meetings with you guys, like we're going to laugh and joke and be silly and have fun. And there's just something about getting to do that really good and really fun work together, but also have great friendship along the way. That's really fun. I also have several friends alongside me that are those people that, I need to call, not just because I want encouragement, but because I want somebody to tell me the truth. And there are just those few people that I feel like are in our lives. Listeners, I hope that you have these people in your lives as well, who aren't just going to tell you what they want you to hear, and they're not just going to be friends to avoid conflict, but they're going to be your friend and walk with you through hard things, but they're also going to be honest and encourage you and point you back to Jesus, point you back to Scripture. And that is really what this Bible story is all about in Philippians 4, and why we're talking about this passage as we talk with kids and preschoolers this week, because we want to talk about not only what it means to be encouraging and to cheer others on and to use our words and our actions, but what does it mean to tell the truth about who God is and about who we are? So, Jeremy, can you just share with us, what are some takeaways from Philippians 4 that will help us as leaders really teach our kids this upcoming week about how we can cheer on those that are in our circles, how we can point them to Jesus and help them stand firm in truth?
Yeah, you guys know this is one of my favorite. Philippians has just become a book that I've treasured so much. I love it. God's really done a work on me through the whole book of Philippians, because it's such a relational book. I love to talk about Flip the Script and how much it's relational language that Paul uses, how much he just deeply loves the Philippian church. But when we come into this, and this particular Bible story is a little bit shorter maybe than some of the ones that we've done in the past, and it's just a few short verses out of Philippians chapter 4, those first 9 verses, but it's there's a lot in here, and sometimes we take those verses and we may just kind of soundbite them here and there, but if you look at them as a whole, it really can be a deep encouragement. We call it Paul Give Hope. Like, we could cheer on our friends. We can see the cheering that Paul's doing with his friends here. We see that he talks about standing firm in the Lord and how important it is to stand your ground on the truth that you've known. He talks about encouraging, not encourage, but getting along with each other. Encouraging too, but he talks about getting along with each other and like, hey, just like live at peace with one another, be gracious and show kindness and graciousness to each other. Those are all things that we can do to really, what he's doing in this is he's saying, focus your minds and hearts to pursue the things that honor God and being kind to one another, standing on the truth of God's word. Those are things that we can cheer each other on. He says, rejoice in the Lord. And in fact, I love when Paul does this, because he's like, I'm going to say it again, rejoice. Like, he's just like, I don't want you to forget and miss this. This is so important. This is something that's really important to God, to have joy in him. He talks about prayer and how important prayer is to peace that passes all understanding. And he comes back to kind of finish this little section out to say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pursue the things of God. Let me give you a list. Things that are true, things that are pure, things that are just, things that are commendable, things that are excellent, praiseworthy. He said, I want you to pursue these things in the way that you think. And what a reminder that we all need to quote Paul from somewhere else, where he says, be transformed by the renewing of our mind. What a way to do that, for us to cheer each other on and realize that as a community, we can bond together over these things, about pursuing the things of God, and all of these things that he says. And then he caps that off, and I think we may take this as a transition here, Caleb, but he caps that off by saying, do what you've seen in me. And I love that he doesn't just say, like, you go figure it out. He's like, hey, I'm trying to live this out a little bit for you. And so as I'm following Jesus, come alongside, and I want to encourage you and cheer you on to follow, not just follow me for the sake of because I'm great, but follow me as I follow Jesus. And I think that's a great way that Paul just kind of summarizes this whole thing about pursue the things of God. And we can cheer our friends on to do that, and we should be doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. When we look at these few verses, they're not very many. Jeremy's right. They're pretty few, but they're so impactful and they're so powerful about what it looks like to live in community. And I think so often there is a two sides to this part of community, right? That we are in community to receive the joy of what it looks like to live in community, because that's how God made us. He made us to be in community, to have those friends and those family members around us, to have our church family to invest in us. But he also made us to be in community so that we are doing those things within community. So there is a receiving, but there is also a sharing and an investing in the community that God has given to us. So Isaac, as we are thinking about that, I would love to hear from you. When we first jumped on our podcast, we were talking about who are those people who lift us up? Who are the ones who encourage us? And what are the names that come to mind of the people who just really, really help us and encourage us and bring joy into our lives? I would love for you to share a little bit. What are some things that we can do as leaders that encourage kids and preschoolers? How can we be those people to the kids in our classrooms, to the kids in our spaces on a Wednesday night or on a Sunday morning? How can we be an encouragement to these kids?
Well, I kind of want to pick up, honestly, where Jeremy finished, because I love, Jeremy, what you said about how when we are looking at this passage, it's not encouraging from our own selves, but it's encouraging from what God has already given us. And I think to encourage the people around us, we need to first start off with, hey, what has God done for us? Well, God is always with us. So, hey, just being there for someone, being an encouragement. I know that on days where I feel like I've had a week and I need some encouragement or I need some hope, when I walk in on a Sunday morning and I see my leaders at church, when I see my friends at church, that just them being there, coming up and asking me how I'm doing, and just being with me, that's an encouragement. So be there for your kids. Be there for if maybe you are a ministry leader and some of your volunteers just need to hear you ask them, hey, how are you doing? Hey, how can I pray for you? Hey, how can I be here for you this week? That is a great encouragement for them. Maybe some of the kids just need to hear, hey, you are special. I'm glad you are here in this room. I'm glad you're right here. Just you being there and knowing that they are important enough to be cared for, to be there, is so important. The other thing that looking at what God has done for us is it talks about how we can have grace, how we can have peace, how we can have love. And by showing those to the people around us, how in a situation that may seem a little frantic, how we can show peace in those moments, and we can provide a kind of a sanctuary of peace in those moments. How when there is something where there's a disagreement, how we can show grace and we can show forgiveness in those moments. How when someone is going through something and they feel like it's a little hopeless, how we can show God's joy that he has given us. It's not something that we are manufacturing, but it can be an overflow that comes straight from God. So it all starts with us being in prayer, being connected to God. So when those moments come and our friends are low, we can show them the love, the grace, the peace, the joy that God has given to each of us.
Thanks, Isaac. I think that's so true. It's out of the overflow. It's out of the abundance that we're able to encourage and lift up and pour out of ourselves. And so we can't pour out what has not been put in us, right? And so there's this recognition that it is out of the abundance of our connection with the Lord, our relationship with the Lord. Like that comes first, and it is out of the overflow of that our community experiences the blessing and the gift of the encouragement that we can give and that we can share as we are pointing people to Jesus, both in our words and in our actions, that we are able to share and to provide those things.
I just want to, can I jump? I want to remind ministry leaders, I want to remind you, like, just remember, whether it's preschoolers, kids, students, your own leaders, the world is beating us down. And you may be the only place that people can come to get cheered on and to be encouraged. And so this particular session is so important to the community aspect of the church. We get run down a lot. Kids are getting run down at school, and they're tired. And this is, I hesitate to say this, but like I can't think of a more Hyfi session than this one that just says like we need to be cheerleaders. Isaac, what you just said, Kayla, what you said, like we need to be cheerleaders for our people that come in, whether they're the kids we serve or whether they're the leaders that are in our ministry. This is so relationally important that when people come in, that we give them life, we breathe life into them through our unity in the Spirit. And so don't miss this opportunity this week to be that bright light for them, that breath of fresh air for them by cheering them on and giving them some encouragement.
Thanks, Jeremy. Well, listeners, we are praying for you and for your ministry as you are studying and preparing this week to teach about how we can cheer on our friends. And we hope that this podcast is an encouragement to you, that it brings some joy into your world, whether you're on your daily commute or maybe doing some chores around the house, as you're just thinking and preparing your heart for what is to come as you lead and teach this lesson. So know that we are cheering you on, and we are grateful for you and the ministry and the work that the Lord has provided for you as you love and serve and lead preschoolers and kids. So know that we are grateful for you. And next week, we will be jumping into our last week of this truth. I can't believe it's flown by so fast, but next week we are going to be talking about how we can learn from our friends, looking at Titus. So you will not want to miss next week's episode as we wrap up our I Am Made for Community truth. Until next time, we'll see you later.